Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's almost noontime. I would like to call the meeting to order at 11 o'clock a.m. I ask that as a courtesy to all that you ensure that you have silenced your cell phones. Also would like to remind all directors to turn their microphone on each time they speak to help with the audio and video recordings. For the record, I'll note that the public meeting notice was properly posted as required by law, and the notice of this board meeting was provided to each of the directors. At this time, I would like to invite Director Huber to deliver the invocation.
You pray with me. Our Heavenly Father, we're thankful, Lord, for all the gifts that you give us. We thank you for the rain that you've given our basin recently, and which was sorely needed. We thank you, Lord, for this organization, for the great staff that are so professional, and for our board and our opportunity to serve our fellow Texans on this board. We just ask you that you guide us and give us your wisdom today as we deliberate over the business of this organization. And we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Notification was received from Director Bourne and Director Smith that they would not be in attendance at today's meeting. We've now reached the portion of the meeting where we have set aside time to hear from you, the general public. Those interested in providing comments by filling out one of the cards available at the receptionist desk will be called to approach the podium to make their comments at this time. We encourage you to speak your mind, to tell us your thoughts. Be mindful, however, that the board is limited by the provisions of the Open Meetings Act and its ability to participate in discussions or deliberations on the issues that are not posted on the meeting agenda. At this time, we have a public comment from Christy Ketterman. Yes, please. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
And it's Christy.
Okay.
And Wes here will let you know when time is approaching.
Good morning. My name is Christy Kitterman, and I live in White Bluff in Whitney, Texas. I'm here to ask for an update on the Lake Whitney reallocation project. I would like confirmation on the amount of cubic feet our water level will be dropped, the plan for maintaining the recreational use of our lake, and the timeline for the reallocation of the water.
I don't have any more cards for public comment, so we will move on to our first agenda item, report and possible discussion on fiscal year 2027 preliminary budget and long-range financial plan presented by Michelle Drouin, Chief Financial Officer. Michelle, already 2027.
I know. I can't believe it's June already. So thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Board. This first item is to give you a preliminary look at our long-range plan and fiscal year 2027 proposed budget. We'll start by talking about assumptions in relation to expenses. We are going to be implementing an employee cost index increase of 2.5%. and a merit pool of 3%. We will be adding 4 full-time positions, and we're going to be converting 2 part-time positions to full-time positions. Our share of the O&M expenses for our storage and our federal reservoirs for fiscal year 27 is going to be $3.6 million. That's actually a $1.4 million decrease from fiscal year 26. All of our O&M expenses, and that's across water supply and the cost reimbursable, but not including debt service, are going to be increasing less than 3% from fiscal year 26 to 27. We also anticipate issuing $59 million in debt to fund capital projects and to reimburse eligible capital project expenses from prior years. $50 million of that will be for the water supply system. $9 million of that will be for the cost reimbursable. On the revenue side, Our proposed system rate for fiscal year '27 is going to be $113 an acre foot. And that's a 6.6% increase from the current year of $106. Non-system water revenues are expected to stay relatively level with fiscal year '26. Some of the other revenue items, our treated water sales out of our EWC plant are projected to increase $700,000. That is strictly on volume. The rates are staying the same for fiscal year '27. Interest income is expected to increase about $800,000, and that is mainly due to having higher cash balances from the debt issues that we're going to be doing next year. We've seen the interest rate come down a little bit. We're expecting it to go down a little bit more next year. And continuing with the revenues, we started a process last year where we were going through and evaluating user fees, and we brought some of those to you last summer. For this year, at the July meeting, we anticipate bringing recreational fees, water contract fees, and on-water facility fees, with any recommendations for changes, increases, or keeping those the same. This is a comparison of our long-term billing units. These are the different types of water contracts we have and how many acre feet we have under each one, along with the average price. Really the only, let's see if I can do this. The only change really was we had a little bit of other fixed price water that converted to system water. Otherwise, you can see that the total acre feet under contract is exactly the same. This graph shows how these long-term contracts on the previous graph will be converting over time. And the thing to really point out here is this dark blue part right here. That's water that we have under utility contracts that's currently under a different rate structure. And in 2031, we expect that to convert to system rate. So that little blue area goes away and goes into the orange area. The increase right here in 2031 is also maybe the Lake Whitney water being available for sale. So this is how we calculate our system rate every year. First, we start off with any revenues that are not generated by our system water. It's our other types of water, and then other things like interest income. And so we get the total. You can see that's increased a little bit from last year. And then we subtract our expenses. We've got our O&M expenses going up just a little bit. You can see the debt service is going up quite a bit, and that's due to the $50 million in debt that we plan to issue next year. The debt service that is not subject to coverage, and that's the debt that we're holding that we still owe on the federal reservoirs, is staying level. And then our operating projects are going up a little bit. So our total water supply expenses are going up about $5 million. The coverage requirement on this increased debt is going up about $1 million. And then we're going to contribute some to our rate stabilization reserve, which we'll talk about a little later, what that's used for. And so that's the total financial requirement that has to be met by our system rate customers. And so when we divide that by the number of system rate billing units we have, that's how we come up with our system rate. This is a breakdown that kind of shows for each acre foot that you have, how much of that $113 is going to what. And you can see the biggest part of it is our O&M expenses. You can see our debt service And in next year it'll be going up because we're adding that additional debt service. Our operating projects are going up a little bit. Coverage is going up because, like I said, we're issuing more debt, so our coverage will be going up. And then the last slice is what we put into our rate stabilization fund. This is kind of an overall view of all of our financials, our water supply system, and our cost reimbursable side. We expect to begin the year with about $103 million in reserves. Revenues will be $86 million. Our O&M, debt service, and then operating projects will leave a surplus of $7 million. We anticipate spending $79.8 million on capital projects and debt funding of $50 million to give us ending reserves of about $80 million. On the cost reimbursable side, there are no beginning and ending reserves because any money we over or under collect belongs to those customers. So we just have the revenue we take in and what we plan to spend, and so that nets to zero. So last year we had talked about some of the project implementation challenge that we faced with capital projects and kind of the uncertainty and volatility, supply chain disruptions, the unprecedented amount of inflation we're seeing, especially in the construction sector. And then just the large volumes of construction projects in Texas, data centers, semiconductors. That means when we bid out our projects, we are competing for limited resources. And so we kind of see, we see less people bidding on our projects. And so to try and mitigate those, our project delivery division are exploring alternative delivery methods, exploring opportunities to pre-order some of the long lead time equipment. They've also put together some initiatives to generate interest in some of the projects. We recently had an industry day at East Williamson County because we're going to be putting that out for bid soon, and to try and let people know, come and see what this project is about. Try and get them interested and get more people bidding on those projects. We're also trying to get our design engineers more engaged in reaching out to contractors and trying to help build interest in some of these projects. So these are the operating projects we have planned for the next 5 years. Operating projects differ from capital projects in that they usually don't create a capital asset. They're mainly studies and assessments, maybe some larger non-recurring repairs that we don't necessarily want to roll into our long-range financial plan as a recurring cost every year. And so this is what we have planned for 27. You can see it's about $5.6 million. The biggest one of that is recoding and repairs to the controlled outlet conduit at Possum Kingdom. Oh, and I forgot to mention, let me mention real quick too, on the operating projects, we pay for those with current revenues. So those are part of our system rate. The capital improvement projects, these are bigger projects. They usually take longer, and these will all create capital assets.
Michelle,
Yes.
one question on the previous slide before you continue.
Well, actually, on both slides, help me a minute. So I got the second set of letters. What do the first set of letters, the UB, the BW?
Oh, okay. That's a
what
good
do they
question.
stand for?
UB is Upper Basin. This is kind of back when before we reorganized, we relied on basins. But BW is basin-wide, CB is Central Basin.
Thank you.
And then, yeah. Oh, good question.
I'm trying to make something out of it. What?
You can make up stuff if you want to, that's fine. So for the capital projects, you can see we've got some big things planned for next year, the beginning of several of our EWC expansion, moving forward on Allens Creek Reservoir, and the Bell House drought preparedness are the really big ones. We also have some, let's see, where's raw water line? Phase 3 pumps. We'll be talking about issuing debt for that very soon in a couple of agenda items. So you can see, though, in fiscal year 28, I want to kind of point this out. You can see spending really ramps up on a lot of projects to where we've got close to 261 million planned for fiscal year 28. So that's part of our long-range plan is to not just look at the next year or the next 5 years, to look at the next 10 years, look at the next 20 years and see what we're doing today, the debt we issue today. How is that going to affect our system rate in the future? And so here's the debt. So you see on the water supply side, we've got 50 million next year. Of that, what did I say it was? Of the 261 million, we may be issuing 219 million in debt. And we always are going to look at it, see if the projects are moving along as anticipated. Hopefully, on a lot of these, we may have gone out for bid and we'll have actual construction costs. So this number could go up, it could go down. But we'll reevaluate it every year. And this is what we expect our year-end reserves to look like at the end of fiscal year 27. So we have 2 reserve funds that are static, meaning the amount doesn't change very often, that are set by the board, and that's the contingency reserve fund and the self-insurance fund. The self-insurance fund is $500,000. The contingency reserve fund is $5.5 million. The 90-day working capital reserve, you notice that green section goes up a little bit every year. As our O&M expenses go up, the 90-day reserve of our O&M expenses is going to continue to go up. And then the rate stabilization reserve is what is left over. And so we use that to cash fund projects where we can. You notice next year we're going to do 261 million in projects, but we're only going to issue 219 in debt. It's because we're going to cash fund the rest of it with our rate stabilization reserves. The other use of our rate stabilization reserve is just what the title says. This is showing you what our model is telling us the rate should be, and then by applying some of those rate stabilization reserves as current revenues, we're able to buy down that rate. And so this is how much we're buying down that rate each year to get our projected rates going out into the future. And so what that does is that helps us kind of level them out. You know, the customers want stability. They don't want things going up and down and up and down. And just even with the 2027 rate, you know, last year at this time we had projected it would be $114.50. And this year we were able to come in at $113. I realize that's not a lot, but as things start going up and as we start issuing more debt, you could see that volatility going up and down a little more. So this is trying to smooth out that line. And this is our system rate projection for the next 10 years. When we had presented this last year, we were expecting to cross the $200 mark in 2034. Now you can see we're out to 2036, and we're staying below that $200 mark. So that's it's down a little bit from where we thought it would be.
Michelle, can I
Absolutely.
jump in? So this is our 10-year long-term projection for our system rate. We sell water at what it cost us to make water available. We do not sell water at its market, what its market value would be. If we did, then water would be unaffordable for most, right? So the reason I tell you that is because as we assess projects and our future and opportunities, it may impact this. For example, in the months to come, we are going to aggressively look at how do we move the Allens Creek timeline to the left and speed that project up so that we would be in construction years ahead of the projections that are used for this model. And these projections are projections that we had post the special board meeting and some of the other discussions to help us set the rate and get something that we could get to our customers this month and obviously the board so that we could begin to understand what those financial impacts are. The financial impacts could be significant in that if we're able to do it years earlier, obviously construction would be significantly cheaper. And it would be water on the market cheaper, water on the market faster. If we move that timeline to the left and we have to issue debt faster and everything's moving faster, then it could impact how this continues to ramp up and what we have to charge those rates, because we're setting those rates based on what it's costing us to make that water available, again, not what the market value is. So you may, when we start talking about this in the months to come and when we show this to our customers next year, based on the timeline for Allens Creek, based on the construction of the Bell House pipeline, based on the ability to sell Whitney water, all of those things are going to impact that timeline to the left or to the right and impact what these projected costs look like. So that's what we're doing in the months to come, especially for Allens Creek. I think there's an opportunity for those numbers to impact what this looks like in the months to come. So.
Thanks.
So we'll bring you the final 2027 budget and capital improvement plan at the July meeting. We still have a few outstanding items. We have a few more, I think, waiting for a little more feedback from some of our cost reimbursable customers, but that should be final by June 16th. Additional information may become available regarding costs and timelines for operating and capital projects. We're going to have our annual water customer meetings. The first one will be on June 23rd in Rosenberg. The second one will be on June 25th here in Waco. But all items will be finalized when we bring that to you at the July board meeting.
Michelle, we have a question from Director Lattimore, I believe from the previous slide.
If we could go back to the projection, that
That one?
and my question is not so much of you, but it's of David. And really it's two parts. You won't be particularly surprised by this, but how often can a customer buy water from us and turn around and resell it in the marketplace and actually make money off of it?
You want to talk about resale?
My point is, while you're getting that information, and I may be the only director that feels this way. My point is, maybe I should ask another question. How does our projection compare to other water authorities across the state of Texas? Are we in keeping? Are we doing that? Are we doing that which we are expected to do? I understand that we need to provide water at the lowest cost we can to the citizens of the state of Texas. But does it make sense for us to draw down money out of our own funding to keep that level low? Or does it make sense for us to be maybe charging more for the water?
So Yes. We'll take all of those questions in order, and Matt and legal can talk a little bit about our resale policy, because we do allow customers that buy water from us to turn around and resell that water. And the purpose is there's a couple of benefits. One is it allows a customer that is doing their long-term planning to buy enough water for their future, to grow into their future. And it also allows maybe new industry or potential customers that haven't done the planning or didn't anticipate the growth to come in and do some short-term expenditure purchases and help take care of that. So talk about that first, Matt, and then we can address the rest. Director Lattimore.
Thank you.
Yeah, our water sales policy allows for resales, and that policy is approved by the board. Resales can be for up to 10 years. And typically they're, as David said, they're done by customers who are not utilizing their full contract amount. Now, the agreement between a customer reselling water and the party they resell water to, BRA is not a party to that agreement. We receive no financial benefit from that agreement. We essentially just sign off on them doing a resale agreement, and we have a number of them. And I believe as an organization, we began allowing those at a time where we did not have long-term water available. And allowing customers to do that allows needs to be met in the basin that we could not meet, at least in a short term, until we develop new supplies.
I have a question. And David, you just mentioned that these numbers do not reflect what we talked about in the last meeting as it relates to Allen's Creek. Yet, if I'm remembering correctly, the rate is less than what has been projected in the 5-year plan over the last several years that has gone out to the rate payers. So we have a lower rate than what was proposed last year and previous years for them to prepare for. At what point, seeing that I think we know that the board is very focused on moving forward as quickly as possible to complete Allen's Creek. So by going down on our rate this year, will there be could we anticipate a higher spike over the next 5 years for our ratepayers because we're trying to move forward, which means obviously paying more upfront quicker than what we had originally planned?
Okay, so I think your question ties in with Director Lattimore's question also. These projections are based on Allen's Creek being at $1 billion. These projections are based on the Bell House pipeline that we're going to build being X hundreds of millions of dollars. East Williamson County being X hundreds of millions of dollars. As those numbers change, it will impact this projection. This is like a weather model when we think it's going to rain. This is how the timing of those projects, what those projects are going to cost, and how much debt we need to issue, and how much of our capital budget we're going to spend, how much of our reserves we're going to spend, so that we can level out the rate increases to the customers. If for some reason, let's say in year 3 or 4, the projection is Allen's Creek is $2 billion, then we'll plug $2 billion into this, and then that will be a different curve, if you will. But based on all the projections that Michelle's expert group has done in managing what we think we need in the bank for all of our buckets of money, our capital reserves, our savings account, our rate stabilization, how we're going to spend that money to keep it from going hockey stick is what they call it, up. This is how that projection looks. Today, we sell water a lot cheaper than most other river authorities. However, the devil's in the details, because if you look at the take rate of water for LCRA, it's more than double of what our water is. But they also have a reservation rate that is closer to ours for their long-term water that you're not using. So it's really hard to take that question of how do our rates compare to others and make it an apples to apples comparison. And it also is more difficult because these numbers are also based on our assets that we're trying to maintain. And so that drives this relationship also. But we feel very confident in these numbers that this allows us to not neglect long-term maintenance and rehabs of our dams. It allows us to do all of the projects that we're bringing to the board in this long-term strategy. And it allows us to fund Allen's Creek and do the things that we need to do. But the most important thing about this conversation is that that group is watching this on a monthly basis. And the second that we notice that something's going to change is the second that we would bring that to the board and to begin to look at adjusting 6.6, 7.1, 7.9 over time so that we avoid some type of really drastic spike in that rate. Does that answer both of y'all's questions?
Well, it answers my question, except my concern is the slope of this over time. And my question is really, should it maybe be a little steeper? In other words, are we selling water too cheap? Are we really doing our job? And I don't know the answer to that question. My impression is what you just said is we'll just have to see how it works out in
Well,
the future.
I really, really appreciate your concern, and let me answer it a different way. We're going into probably the most expensive 10-year period in BRA history, and we have almost $200 million in the bank in reserves ready to attack that. So that tells me that the strategy in putting our rates together is one that we've allowed to create a reserve balance, whether it's used on rate stabilization or paying cash for some of these projects, that puts us in a position to where I'm comfortable with the slope right now as it sets.
And if I could, one reason that the rate is lower for 27 is because kind of the things we talked about with the
Let
capital.
me correct that. The rate is not lower for 27. The percent increase is lower
Yes,
for
yes.
27.
Yes. The percent increase for 27 is lower than we had projected. For one thing, things we talked about earlier, capital projects, and getting people interested and getting people to bid on them. We've had some of our capital projects slide a little bit, so we didn't have to issue debt this year like we thought we would. So we were able to hold on to that cash a little longer. So we made more in interest income. So that's bolstered our reserves, and so that's one reason that we don't need to have the percentage increase that we had anticipated for next year. Okay.
Yes, and I have a comment and a question. Director Lattimore, I agree with your precept and your thoughts, but I also have a question for Matt, something I'm not sure I understood, something you said a while ago, maybe you can clarify it for me. I think you said that we have to write off on them reselling. Can you, what does that mean?
We essentially sign a tripartite agreement that blesses them in entering into a resale agreement.
So if they buy water from us, they can't resell it unless we allow them to resell it?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I wanted. I want to make sure I understood that.
correct.
Okay. Director Weldon, and then we'll go to Christie. Director Geese.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo a comment that was made earlier in agreement with the look at Allen's Creek moving to the left, in other words, earlier. We will never spend less money on design than today. We will never spend less money on construction than tomorrow. And so the sooner we move things to the left, that's stewardship to help preserve this moving forward. So I applaud the effort, David, of your staff to look at this and look forward to our discussions on this in upcoming meetings.
I have a question for Director Lattimore. So when our customers are selling the water and we enter into this, is there any kind of limit that's put on? I mean, do we know if they're selling it for A 20% markup, a 50% markup, a 100% markup?
We're never party to the agreement that they make with one another. We assume that they make an arm's length transaction with whoever is purchasing the water. One of the things that we do, and this gets to Aaron's part of it, he's got to determine where it's being sold, if it's available, if it's even possible for the buyer to access that water. The other thing that we do with those resale agreements is type of use. So let's say it's a customer that has an agricultural contract, which is 70% of the system rate, so it's a lower rate. If they want to do a resale for a different type of use, say an industrial use, we require them to convert their entire contract to a full system rate contract. So we do have some stipulations in terms of resales that require customers to do things like that, for sure.
But we have no authority to cap.
Whatever they're charging is whatever they get the buyer to agree to.
Oh, Matt answered it just now. Thank you.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay. If there are no further questions, there's not a resolution attached to this. This is just a presentation.
Any other discussion?
If I could just offer a comment in the extensive planning that goes out, planning this years and years in advance, not only to grow opportunities, not only to keep our existing customers happy. I want to say thank you for the close attention that we play to maintaining the infrastructure. That has not happened in all capacities in water in the state of Texas. And we're seeing different pockets of the state and different areas where significant failures are taking place because that planning was not done in advance. We are lucky here at the BRA at the amount of professionalism, the expert, and all of the work that you all do to make sure that we are continuing to provide at a level that we can continue to provide and that we're not running into those issues. And so I just want to point out and say thank you, along with all the financial planning and all the experts that it takes to bring on board for that. That is a crucial part of what we're doing and what we're providing to the state of Texas. So thank you.
Okay, Michelle, we'll go to the second agenda item, which is discussion and possible action on Texas Water Development Board's water supply infrastructure grant application. Michelle Gilroy, Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this kind of tees off what we were just talking about. We have all these capital projects that are coming that we need to pay for. During the last legislative session, House Bill 500 was adopted that set aside $1 billion to be processed as one-time grant funding to support local water supply and water infrastructure. The award amounts are tiered based on population served. Applications will be scored based on population served, the annual median household income, and readiness to proceed of the project. Based on available funding and the grant cap set for each population tier, it's estimated that between 35 and 45 grants will be awarded. The construction phase of our East Williamson County meets the parameters of this grant program. Based on the population tier that the EWC plant serves, it is eligible for up to $21 million in funding. The solicitation for applications for the grants opened on April 1st, open for 120 days. We're here today to seek approval to submit an application for that grant. June 24th, there'll be a Brazos G meeting. On July 30th, the application is due to the Water Development Board. They will announce the awards in fall of '26, and an actual date hasn't been set. And sometime in the winter through May 1st, 2027 will be the closings on that debt. Any questions?
Michelle, when you say they, who is the group that will actually be reviewing those grants and making the decisions?
It's the Texas Water Development Board.
And it's the members and employees of that?
Yes.
board? Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question. Do you know what the definition of population served is within the?
It's the population in the service area, not just the population served by a particular project. So for the people we're competing against, if a city has 2 water treatment plants, they get to use the population of the whole city, whether it's served by that particular water plant or not.
Seeing no other questions, please read the resolution.
Okay. Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority that an application is hereby authorized to be filed with the Texas Water Development Board seeking funding through the Water Supply and Infrastructure Grant Program created by HB 500 in an aggregate amount not to exceed $21 million for money to be spent on the construction of the East Williamson County Regional Water System Phase 2 expansion, and be it further resolved that the General Manager, CEO, and Chief Financial Officer of the Brazos River Authority are each hereby designated the authorized representatives of the authority for the purpose of furnishing any information and executing any documents as may be required in connection with the preparing and filing of such application for financial assistance and complying with the rules of the Texas Water Development Board.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. A motion was made by Director Henderson and a second by Director Crone. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores?
Yes.
Director Lloyd?
Yes.
Director Wilson?
Yes.
Director Abraham?
Yes.
Director Geesey?
Yes.
Director Henderson?
Yes.
Director Huber?
Yes.
Director Crone?
Yes.
Director LaChance?
Yes.
Director Lattimore?
Yes.
Director Imbro?
Yes.
Director Parks?
Yes.
Director Ruiz?
Yes.
Director Taylor?
Yep.
Director Weldon?
Yes.
Agenda item number 3, discussion and possible action on resolution authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of the Brazos River Authority Contract Revenue Bond Series 2026.
Issues to complete this project. We're going to do $9 million this fiscal year, and that should get us through the design and hopefully into the beginning of construction. The second debt issue will come after we've received a construction bid and we know how much construction will be and what the timeline for that is. Because the raw water line is a cost reimbursable operation, the obligations created by this debt issue are the responsibility of the contracting parties. If there are any questions, if not, okay. Get some water. This is gonna take a while. You thought surplus was boring. Before I go on, though, I wanted to recognize Paul Jason. He's with Specialty Finance. They are our bond advisors. They're going to help us with this one and with the water supply one that we will probably doing in fiscal year 27. So he was nice enough to come here this morning, and if you all had any questions. Okay. Whereas the Brazos River Authority was duly created and is lawfully operating under the Authority Act, all pursuant to and in furtherance of the purposes of Article 16, Section 59 of the Constitution of Texas, and whereas the authority in the City of Georgetown, City of Round Rock, and Brushy Creek Municipal Utility District have previously entered into the A&R project agreement for the purpose of providing for the authority to design, construct, and operate facilities for transporting water from Lake Stillhouse Hollow, committed to said participants to Lake Georgetown, known as the Williamson County Regional Raw Water Line Project, for diversion by them for municipal purposes, and whereas the authority has determined it is beneficial and in the best interest of the participants to issue and hereinafter authorized the bonds, in order to fund a portion of the Phase 3 pump project pursuant to the A&R project agreement. And whereas the bonds authorized to be issued by this resolution are to be issued and delivered pursuant to the Authority Act and Chapter 1371 of the Texas Government Code and other applicable laws. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority that Section 1, recitals, covenants, agreements, and amount and purpose of the bonds. The Board of the Authority hereby incorporates the recitals set forth in the preamble hereto as if set forth in full at this place, and further finds and determines that said recitals are true and correct. Additional terms used in the preamble and herein are defined as set forth in 2026 Bond Covenants Agreement, the agreement, substantially in the form presented at this meeting, the terms of which are hereby incorporated herein as if set forth in full at this place. The presiding officer, the assistant presiding officer, the secretary, and any assistant secretary of the board, and the general manager, CEO, are authorized and directed to execute the agreement. The bonds of the authority are hereby authorized to be issued and delivered in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $9 million for the purpose of providing funds to acquire, construct, and equip a portion of the Phase 3 pump project. Section 2, designation, authorized officer, date, denominations, numbers, maturities, terms, and sale of bonds. A, each bond issued pursuant to this resolution shall be designated Brazos River Authority Contract Revenue Bond, Series 2026, Williamson County Regional Raw Water Line Project, subject to paragraph C of this section. As authorized by Chapter 1371 Texas Government Code, the General Manager, CEO of the authority is hereby designated as the authorized officer of the authority. B, initially there shall be issued, sold, and delivered hereunder in one or more series, fully registered bonds without interest coupons, numbered consecutively upward, payable to the respective initial registered owners thereof, or to the registered assignee or assignees of the bonds, or any portion or portions in the denominations of 5,000 or any integral multiple thereof, maturing not later than 40 years from the date of the bonds, payable serially or otherwise on the dates, in the years and in the respective principal amounts and at the respective rates of interest, and dated, all as set forth in the certificate of the authorized officer. C, as authorized by Chapter 1371 of the Texas Government Code, the authorized officer is hereby authorized, appointed, and designated to act on behalf of the board in selling, delivering the bonds, and carrying out the other procedures specified in this resolution and the agreement, including determining and fixing the date of the bonds, any different or additional designation or title by which the bonds shall be known, the price at which the bonds will be sold, the years in which the bonds will mature, the principal amount to mature in each of such years, the aggregate principal amount of the bonds within the maximum amount set forth in Section 1 hereof, the rate of interest to be borne by each such maturity, the principal and interest payment period and date, the redemption provisions thereof, procuring municipal bond insurance, and approving modifications to this resolution and the agreement, and executing such instruments, documents, and agreements as may be necessary with respect thereto, if it is determined that such insurance would be financially desirable and advantageous, and all other matters relating to the issuance, sale, and delivery of the bonds. The authorized officer acting for and on behalf of the authority is authorized to arrange for the bonds to be sold at competitive sale pursuant to a notice of sale and bidding instructions and official bid form, or negotiated sale to an underwriter or underwriting syndicate, and to carry into and carry out a bond purchase agreement with such underwriters of the bonds upon such terms as shall be set forth therein. Any bond purchase agreement or notice of sale and bidding instructions shall be substantially in such form as approved by the authorized officer, provided that the price to be paid for the bond shall not be less than 95% of the initial aggregate principal amount thereof, plus accrued interest thereon from their date to their delivery. And no bond shall bear interest at a rate greater than 10% per annum. The authorized officer is further authorized for and on behalf of the authority to approve any official statement and any supplements thereto relating to the bonds, and are referred to in any such notice or sale or bond purchase agreement. It is further provided, however, that notwithstanding the foregoing provisions, the bonds shall not be delivered unless, prior to their delivery, the bonds have been rated by a nationally recognized rating agency for municipal long-term obligations as required by said Chapter 1371 of the Texas Government Code. D, in establishing the aggregate principal amount of the bonds, the authorized officer shall establish an amount within the amount authorized in Section 1 hereof, which amount shall be sufficient to provide for the initial funding of the various funds required to be established and maintained by the agreement, paying the costs of a portion of the Phase 3 pump project, and paying the cost of issuance of the bonds. Section 3, immediate effect repeal. This resolution shall be effective immediately from and after its adoption. Any resolution of the board heretofore adopted which conflicts with the subject terms or provisions of this resolution is hereby repealed and shall be of no further purpose or effect. The authority of the authorized officer to sell the bonds as described in Section 2C of this resolution shall expire on the 1-year anniversary date of the adoption of this resolution by the board.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. A motion was made by Director Henderson. A second. Director Huber, please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Wilson,
Yes.
Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Easy,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Embro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Weiss,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yep.
Director Weldon.
Yes.
Agenda item number 4, discussion and possible action on human resources policy updates by Crystal Wilde, Chief Human Resource Officer.
Thank you. Good morning, all. Here, I thought I had it bad because I have to read some policy language to you guys, but I think Michelle won with her last resolution. So each year we review our HR policies to make sure that they're still clear and explicitly explain what our expectations are and the benefits to our employees are. And so we bring that to the board because you are authorized to make changes to this policy manual. So we will start with the first policy that we're changing. There we go. I'm sorry. I have a clicker right here, don't I, Lisa? Sorry. Severability. And I do have a typo on here. It's actually 1.02. So in your agenda item, it says 1.02. Our severability policy just says that if there's something wrong with any portion of the policy, that would come out. If it's illegal or unenforceable, that portion would come out and the rest of the policy would still be in effect. And we needed to add some language that just says, what do we do if there's an instance where there's a conflict between a BRA regulation and a law? So we're adding the following language to the end of the paragraph. In the event of a conflict between a BRA rule and the state or federal constitution, a state or federal statute, or a rule, guideline, or requirement promulgated by a governmental office or agency, the state or federal law, guideline, or requirement shall control. The next policy that we need to update is our military leave policy. The one that we have is a federal law, and we discovered that the Texas law is actually a little more generous for our employees that need this type of leave. So in order to comply with the Texas government code that requires public employers to provide 15 days of paid leave per fiscal year for training or duty, we're actually going to delete this entire policy and replace it with the following. Military leave may be taken under the following circumstances. An employee who is a member of the Texas Military Forces, a reserve component of the Armed Forces, or a member of a state or federally authorized urban search and rescue team is entitled to a paid leave of absence from the person's duties on a day on which the person is engaged in authorized training or duty ordered or authorized by proper authority for not more than 15 workdays in a fiscal year. Or an employee who is called to state active duty by the governor or another appropriate authority in response to a disaster is entitled to a paid leave of absence from the person's duties for each day the person is called to active duty during the disaster, not to exceed 7 workdays in a fiscal year. During a leave of absence under either of those circumstances, the employee may not be subjected to loss of time, efficiency rating, personal time, sick leave, or vacation time. Requests for military leave must be submitted on a leave request report form as soon as practicable prior to the proposed date of departure on military leave. An employee who is a member of the Texas Military Forces, a reserve component of the Armed Forces, or a member of a state or federally authorized urban search and rescue team, and who is ordered to duty by proper authority is entitled, when relieved from duty, to be restored to the position that the employee held when ordered to duty. BRA shall provide written notice of the number of workdays of paid leave to which an employee requesting military leave is entitled each fiscal year, and, if applicable, the number of workdays of paid leave to which that employee is entitled to carry forward each fiscal year. BRA shall, at the request of an employee, provide a statement that contains the number of workdays for which the employee claimed paid leave in that fiscal year. For purposes of retirement, the employee's credited service will not be deemed interrupted through operation of the above acts, provided the employee returns to the employment with the BRA within 60 days after separation, discharge, or retirement. Yes.
I just want to make sure when someone takes leave, if they're ordered to go somewhere. So I know because I have friends that were optometrists that when they were called during the Gulf War, they lost their practices because they had, they still had overhead. They were making this much money in the Army, that was much, and they actually they lost their businesses because they couldn't leave. They were ordered to go overseas. So someone like this who's X amount of money at BRA, now they're getting paid by the feds. Soon they have they get paid, correct?
We're required to provide the 15 days of pay.
No,
Sure
what I'm
that.
saying is.
But
what
yes, they would
happens
get
to them,
paid. Yes, if they
have
got
overhead,
deployed, they would
they're
get
used to
paid.
And
Yeah.
the government's giving them this. Is there anything for the differential make up that? If they're called for more than 15 days of duty, say they're gone for 6 months, a
Yeah.
year.
so let me go back and look.
I just want to make sure what's happened to the people.
Yeah,
I
there's,
think our obligation is just to hold their position or make sure that they have a comparable position to come back to when they get back.
Yeah.
But we don't have an obligation to pay them the
It's
difference.
okay. Just ask a question. Thank you.
Just a quick question. I don't know where you pulled this language from. When it says reserve component, that's typically a federal entity. What are you speaking to when you say reserve component in this language?
I believe that language comes directly from the Texas Government Code.
Okay. Just as long as it's speaking to a non-federal.
It is not, this is from the Texas Government Code, section 437-202.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you.
And the last one for policy changes is funeral leave. We'd like to provide more time for our employees during an event of a loss of immediate family member. And we changed that from 24 hours to 40 hours. And the impact that has, that it creates more equity for our employees. We have certain employees who work 8-hour days, 5 days a week. And then we have other employees who work 10-hour days, 4 days a week. And so the previous policy only allowed those people to get funeral leave for 2.5 days. So now we're allowing them to get it for a full work week. So the change is no more than 40 hours per occurrence will be granted. Okay, the following policies, I don't have to read through all of these because we're just changing titles and department names for things that happened resulting from the reorganization. Under section 9.03, use of Brazos River Authority's electronic mail, computers, and telephones, we're deleting the network and systems administration manager or the IT manager and added the IT department. Under 11.06 termination, we deleted human resources manager and added chief human resources officer. Under 12.02, request for conflict resolution, we deleted human resources manager, added chief human resources officer. Under 13.01 of job descriptions, we deleted human resources manager, added the human resources department. 14.02, personnel action form, deleted human resources manager, added chief human resources officer. 17.13, workers' compensation, deleted human resources manager, added chief human resources officer. And 18.04, sick leave, deleted human resources manager, added chief human resources officer. Okay. Is there any other questions? Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby approves the revisions to the Human Resources Policy Manual as presented and discussed at its June 8th, 2026 meeting to be effective July 1st, 2026.
Presiding Officer Flores? Director Lloyd? Yes. Director Wilson?
Yes.
Director Abraham?
Yes.
Director Geezy?
Yes.
Director Henderson?
Yes.
Director Huber?
Yes.
Director Crone?
Yes.
Director LaChance?
Yes.
Director Lattimore?
Yes.
Director Embro?
Yes.
Director Parks?
Yes.
Director Ruiz?
Yes.
Director Taylor?
Yes.
Director Weldon?
Agenda item number 5, report and possible discussion on emergency management and continuity programs by Tiffany Malzahn, Chief Environmental Officer.
Morning, everyone. This is just a quick update for you so you know what we're doing regarding developing these 2 programs for BRA and where we're at. Both those projects reside in the operational budget, so there is no dedicated project budget for them, but they are encompassed in Strategic Plan Goal 4C. Why do we need emergency management and continuity of operations? Things are going to happen to us. They happen to us every day that we don't anticipate or that are out of the ordinary. So we need to ensure BRA preserves its essential governmental functions, what we were created to do, that we're protecting the life and assets of our infrastructure, our employees, and the general public, that we're maintaining regulatory compliance through these disruptive events, minimizing the chaos and downtime, ensuring that we're set up ahead of time to recover quickly, reducing liability exposure to BRA, and helping everyone move through that easier by clarifying our role in a crisis event. So just, you may be asking, what's the difference between the two? Emergency management deals with the immediate incident where life, environment, physical property is at risk. So wildfires, earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, ice storms, all those things that we experience probably more than you even know at different facilities throughout the year. And then continuity operations focus more on how do we continue the business of BRA through those events. So how does Michelle continue to pay her bills in compliance with what the Texas government code says we do? How do we make payroll? How do we continue to provide water to our customers or treatment services? How do we keep those key functional business processes working or get them stood back up very quickly after a disruption? So just a little bit more detail, what do they different do? The scope of emergency management is that immediate hazard response, evacuation of staff, equipment, and emergency safety, while continuity is covering our critical operations and trying to get those back together. So key activities for emergency management may be helping our staff try to move equipment out of the danger zone by helping them identify a safe evacuation route. If we have a chemical spill, hazard control and mitigation of that spill. They do a lot of communication that involves a lot of outreach with local, county, and city emergency managers, the State Operations Center, and the Texas Department of Emergency Management. Texas has built a system that, through the local government code, to a certain degree, leaves special districts like river authorities out of the chain. So a lot of the primary response to the public, those evacuation orders, have to come through the county judge or have to come through the state. So we're constantly coordinating with them to inform them on the status of whatever's affecting us. And that even goes down to routine gate releases that Aaron Abel's group makes. Our emergency management staff is in constant communication on that. Whereas business continuity is focusing on those critical functions, succession planning. What happens if David's not here to activate the emergency program? Who's going to do that? IT continuity resources, there's a whole lot of interaction with those two programs with IT, because that's the fastest. Most of us can't do our jobs if we don't have access to our electronic files in this day and age. So that's a lot of it. Communications, again, emergency management's doing a lot of external communication, also communicating with impacted facilities, trying to streamline that process. What we see a lot is communication's the first thing that will break down. And so you'll get county emergency managers, city emergency managers, multiple people on BRA staff all trying to call the same facility when those guys need to be working and doing the repairs or protecting the facility. So trying to work very hard, and we're getting there and getting some good response to streamline that communication. So questions come into emergency management. They have periodic sit-downs with the facility staff, and then we'll communicate that information back where it needs to go. COOP and emergency management also during an event have to communicate back and forth, but they will be more providing the COOP staff essential functions. Hey, F&A, have you gotten your computer access back that you need? Hey, Aaron Abel, can you get to the resources you need to make a decision how much water to let out of that dam? So working two sides of the problem. Yes, sir.
Do you have paper backups on everything? I know you have things in the cloud and all that kind of stuff. What if it blows up, you don't have any access to it? Do you have anything on paper? As like a manual somehow?
We do have a lot of manuals that are paper and how-tos in addition to electronics. IT has done a very strong job to making sure we have multiple electronic backups at multiple locations. The The other, and you have converse, we have some areas where we only have paper, and that's also a danger. Because if this building goes down in a fire, we've lost all that. So that's also being worked on. So trying to find those, what are the tools, what do we need to do to make us as resilient as possible so we can recover as quickly as possible? So that's part of what the continuity program is looking into, is that very thing. So how they work together, it's going to depend, it's situational. And it'll be depending on what the impetus of the event is. They must actively coordinate throughout an event. They must actively coordinate with management team during the events. So generally, emergency management is going to stand up and take the lead when there's an immediate threat to human health, environment, or infrastructure. COOP will take the lead where there's not an EN impetus and it's more of a business impetus. However, what they're doing and the things that, as the COOP program develops, it's very technical. There's business impact analysis, key performance indicators are going to develop. All those things are going to be very valuable to emergency management to know also. And so they have to do a lot of information sharing. And once we have both programs stood up and fully fleshed out and documented, and we start training staff, I've already issued them. I want to do periodic large joint exercise to test our response on each one and to really practice it so it becomes commonplace amongst our staff at all levels of the organization. And this is just another kind of graphic of an incident occurs. You know, I'll just use one from last week. We had an earthquake 8 miles away from Lake Limestone. Emergency management got the call. The lake staff was already following their protocols. They were doing their dam inspections and taking their piezometer readings. That was solely emergency management. We didn't know if we needed to activate COOP at that point in time because we didn't know if there was a reason. Fortunately, there wasn't. The reports came back. They sent everything to our engineers, and everything's good. There was zero visible impact to the dam from that. However, at that same time, our emergency management staff was talking with the county. Texas Department of Emergency Management called, and we're like, can we go to Lake Limestone? We said, please, 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 please don't, because seeing a bunch of Tatum trucks roll down would have just absolutely terrified the general public when we didn't know if we had a concern or not. So they were thankfully able to divert them. However, if during that process the answer came back from lake staff of we've got a problem, we've got a concern, then at that point our emergency staff would have called our COOP staff and said, hey, you need to start keying in here because we may have a water delivery problem. We don't know yet, but you need to start paying attention and start working your processes. The exact opposite would happen, say, if it was a cybersecurity attack. It may start out and it's just continuity operations, just business impacts, but if somewhere along the way, suddenly there becomes a fear, oh goodness, we think they have control of a treatment plant, that instantly COOP has got to stop, notify emergency management, notify the general manager that it's time to activate emergency response categories and go that way. So it's really situationally dependent. What we're doing to develop the emergency management program, I will say we have long had an emergency management program, but it was purely meeting the minimum regulatory requirements for our dams and 4 of our treatment plants that met EPA risk management requirements. We are developing an all hazards plan enterprise-wide with this program so that we will cover all our facilities, including central office. And so right now, they have developed their overall guiding program document, which sets up our philosophies, general authorities, expectations of the program. That is currently a management team review. They also have to come very quickly after that, the enterprise-wide emergency management plan, which gets into more detailed structure, roles, and how coordination and communication is going to occur during events. And then we will start down to the facility documents. Like I said, we have 7 facilities that already have facility-specific emergency action plans. We plan to expand that to all our facilities and all our departments. So each one has their own individual plan, and we're trying to design it for simplicity. So something happens at a wastewater plant in the middle of the night, and it's the young operator who's there. He has something real quick he can pull off the shelf. What do I need to do right here? He doesn't have to wade through what everyone else in BRA has to do. He has a document that's quick and easy for him to figure out what he needs to do if he doesn't have senior management around. And then eventually, depending on the process, we think there's going to be some quick resources, tools, and other materials to be developed. Continuity is similar, maybe not quite as few steps, but that middle step is an awfully big one. They've already gotten their general philosophy and program document done, reviewed, and management team has approved it, and they are in there developing their plan stage, where they're doing a whole lot of business impact assessment, risk assessment, calculations, developing recovery strategies with our departments, helping communication protocols and testing different strategies. So all that is in development as we speak. And then again, we hope to get down to individual department or program or facility specific documents, so each one has a quick and easy resource. And it's really a shared responsibility amongst everyone. We can't work without our subject matter experts at our departments and our facilities. We're providing them the structure and support so that they can be the best they can do and focus on what they do during these trying events. And hopefully together we're creating plans that are going to protect our mission and our people. And before I go to questions, I'd like to bring up and introduce the three gentlemen that are helping me do this. So Eric Grasso is our business continuity manager. He's a 20-year military veteran with professional continuity experience at Spirit Logistics and most recently the Texas Department of Transportation. I'll say he's got a Master of Business Continuity Professional certification, which is one of only 674 in the world, so we got a real catch. He's also a certified risk management professional and two-time recipient of the Continuity of Excellence Award from the State Office of Risk Management from his time at TxDOT. Donnie Naylor is our emergency manager. He's been with BRA for a while, but before that, he has 38 years of emergency management experience in environmental compliance and health and safety with the Department of Defense Coalition Forces Land Component and TCEQ. Before TCEQ, the Texas Natural Resource Commission, and before that, the Texas Water Commission. So he's worked in Texas and relevant industries in emergency management for a long time. And finally, Christoph Hermans is our emergency management coordinator. Also a military veteran, but from Belgium. He has 30 years of emergency management, disaster response, and public safety experience, has worked at the United States Judiciary, the United States Postal Service, and most recently was a director of operations at the Texas Department of Emergency Management. And so, we'll open the floor to questions, and I may quietly step aside if you start getting too technical and let the experts handle the issue.
Tiffany, my first thought is it's pretty amazing that you find people with these credentials to work and be part of the team. Thank you all very much for joining, and thank you for your service. Appreciate you. Anybody else have a comment or any questions?
Okay.
Y'all are going to get off easy today.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. All right, agenda item number 6. We'll move on. Discussion and possible action on an interlocal agreement with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department for Invasive Species Public Awareness Campaign, Amendment number 1 by Aaron Abel, Water Services Manager. And Aaron, I'm not sure if that's department or division.
Should be department.
Question 101.
Question one. Good afternoon, everybody. In this item, we're requesting authorization to execute an amendment to an interlocal agreement with Texas Parks and Wildlife for continued contributions toward public awareness campaigns to stop the spread of invasive species. So we've been participating in these public awareness campaigns for the last 13 years. And really, these campaigns have been made possible not only just from BRA, and I'll list the partners, BRA, North Texas Municipal Water District, Tarrant Regional Water District, City of Dallas Water Utilities, Trinity River Authority, San Jacinto River Authority, Sabine River Authority, City of Houston, Guadalupe Blanco River Authority, Lower Colorado River Authority, Coastal Water Authority, Upper Trinity Regional Water District, and the San Antonio River Authority. So we have a statewide coalition that supports this. So the contributions from these partners are used for the educational signs, radio public service announcements, strategically placed billboards, online advertising, and other services to better educate Texas boaters to prevent the spread of invasive species. So Most are familiar with the Clean, Drain, and Dry Your Boat campaign that was started off in 2011, 2012 when zebra mussels, were first, I guess, kind of encroached down into Texas. And that focused on the prevention of the spread of zebra mussels. So we started contributing to these campaigns around that time. The photos you see here are of zebra mussels. The lower left is Lake Belton along the shore, Lake Granger at center, and Stillhouse Hollow on the bottom right. I think this is our intake there at Stillhouse Hollow. Other invasive species of interest also include the water hyacinth, and that is at Lake Limestone along the shores. And the photo in the upper right is actually giant salvinia, an invasive aquatic fern native to Brazil. Fortunately, we don't have any of these confirmed cases on giant salvinia, I don't think, in the Brazos. So that's good. And what happens with this is apparently it can spread in size. It can essentially double in a couple of days. So it can be pretty devastating towards the ecosystem. So, ultimately, we're just requesting authorization to continue supporting these campaigns for another 5 years through FY 2031 with contributions not to exceed $50,000 and total $10,000 per year. So I have a resolution, but I can try to answer any questions or let Tiffany answer any questions.
Aaron, I think it's important that you continue the collaborations, and I appreciate you bringing this agenda item to the board. We have a question up front.
Yeah, and I agree. I think this is great. You guys are doing. How do you measure the impact of this program?
Well, so I guess I'll start off. 2011 through 2012, zebra mussels, started encroaching on us, and we only have 4 reservoirs now that have zebra mussels, and that's Belton, Stillhouse Hollow, Georgetown, and Granger. Could be a lot more, right? We're thankful we don't have any at PK or Granbury or Limestone, and part of that I think is because of this public awareness campaign. Now, as far as other quantifiable metrics, I'll let. Yeah, so I think this campaign has helped, and it's really ramped up really over the last 13 years. We're starting to see other potential species that are on the radar, but with these campaigns, the thought is to produce the results to not allow these to spread, further.
You think awareness is the big deal?
Yeah, I mean, so, really Texas boaters, if you're going from one reservoir that is infested with zebra mussels and you go to another, the one thing to prevent that is to, clean, drain, and dry your boat. And so that mantra and that messaging, whether it's you probably saw it, have seen it in billboards, on the radio, that education I think is key.
I was just going to add to that. We've actually had instances where we've had members of the public notice, a barge or something at one of our parks with zebra mussels on it. We've had some of our own employees that have noticed that, particularly at Lake Granbury. There was a contractor getting ready to put a barge in the water to do some work, and we were notified by somebody that, hey, it looks like there were zebra mussels there. We were able to go out and intercept that before it happened. And so that's just an example of awareness, as a result of these campaigns. Most people that go to boat ramps and parks and stuff see the signs and kind of know now, and so they're more likely to say something. And, I feel like, I may be a pessimist, but I think zebra mussels are going to end up being where they're going to end up being, but every year we can keep them away is less money that we're spending and less money our customers are spending. So put them off as long as we can.
Director Taylor has a question or a comment.
Just a quick question. When you started your presentation, you listed a G in people that were participating in this group, that's great to have a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Is everybody paying the same $10,000?
Yeah, so I think to our knowledge that's the case. Is all the participants are paying the same amount. That's what we
Good
understand.
for the goose, good for the gander.
Director Geesey?
I just have a quick question. If you do see some of these things that y'all don't want going into these lakes, do you guys have like herbicides, insecticides that y'all treat them with, or how do you treat them?
It depends on what it is. Zebra mussels, no one has found a widespread ability to control once they're in an area without completely sterilizing the entire lake. But for like water hyacinth, we work with Parks and Wildlife, and because we're a public lake, they come out and treat that water hyacinth almost annually. And they worked really hard 2007, 2008 timeframe and beat it back, and it had disappeared for a long time. And then the guys from Lake Limestone sent me a picture of something else they were asking an opinion on, and I was like, what's that in the bottom corner? And sure enough, it was a water hyacinth plant. So yes, the plants are usually treatable if you get to them fast enough. Now that picture of the giant salvinia was from Toledo Bend, and it came up and it just took over overnight. You have some of the other plants, hydrilla in some lakes has gotten so bad that it really becomes a management problem, which is why my staff, whenever they're out collecting water quality samples, they look at things like that. They check for zebra mussels. They check for invasive plants at our monitoring sites. Ask the lake staff to do the same communication, and we try as soon as we see something to get on it as quick as possible, because if you catch it early, at least with the vegetation-based invasives, they are somewhat controllable. Zebra mussels, like I said, they've tried a million different things, and no one's really found anything that's effective, other than Texas climate does seem to provide us some protection with our drought flood cycle. It does provide some sense of natural regulation, because either they get out of the water and they dry out and they die, or the water levels come out but too high and they essentially can drown them when we're in flood stage, at least at the core reservoirs with flood control.
Thank you. Thank you all for those questions. Go ahead and read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to execute an amendment to the 2021 interlocal agreement with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, and to provide funding in the amount of not to exceed $50,000, with $10,000 to be provided in fiscal years 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, and 2031 for the public awareness campaign to fight the spread of invasive species in the waters of the Brazos River Basin.
A motion was made. Everybody's heard the resolution. Director Ruiz made a motion, second made by Tracy LaChance. Please pull board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Wilson,
Yes.
Director Abraham,
Yes.
Director Geesey,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance, Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Imbro,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Weldon.
Yes.
Agenda item number 7, report and possible discussion on pay station at Lake Granbury de Cordova Bend Park by Randall McCartney, Regional Lake Operations Manager.
Good afternoon, presiding officer, members of the board. Today's presentation will be a report only. This presentation will highlight a pilot program for an automated pay station at Lake Granbury's de Cordova Bend Park. The pay station is needed to reduce and better manage traffic, increase public safety, and better track length of stay of our campers, and reduce illegal dumping that we're having in this park. Using this pay station will help keep the BRA in line with the industry standard and provide a better user experience in the park for our customers. This here is an example of a pay station from a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers park that was taken just as a visual. Basically, if y'all are not aware of any of these pay stations, you can pull up to them, and if they're asleep, if you will, you can touch any button. It'll basically wake the machine up, and it kind of prompts you how to go through it, and it'll walk you through step by step to pay and receive your receipt. And then it also lets you know at the bottom of your receipt to place that on your dashboard. And that way, if our officers come by, they can look to see if you've paid to be in the park. This will be credit cards only, no cash or coin. Any big box store can give you a prepaid credit card. No PIN numbers are necessary. No personal data is stored within this machine. And the vendor is PCI compliant, which means the Payment Credit Card Industry Data Security Standard. They meet that. This vendor is also the industry standard and used by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Forest Service, and National Park Service, just to name a few of the other agencies that use this actual device. Machines will connect via cellular, which you can see that white dome on the top of that left photo up there, and then it will also have a solar panel for backup power. These machines will run up to 24 hours without on-battery backup if needed, if the machine does go down. That machine will store the card's info and only batch it when it reconnects to service. We'll also, with this machine, have real-time data collected on how many visitors come in and out of our parks daily, monthly, and annually. Currently, we have 2 BRA employees who have managed parks with the Corps of Engineers and have experience utilizing these pay stations and understand and know the positives that these machines provide to those parks. Reasons for the pay station: reduce and better manage traffic in our parks, increase public safety by reducing drive-through visitors, which that does cause traffic congestion, better track length of stay of our campers, and reduce the public use of our BRA dumpsters, provide revenue for future park upgrades and amenities, and then also reduce recreation expenditures on water system rate customers and offset budget for the recreational parks. Some current park issues. So the picture to the left, that's actually De Cordova Bend Park at Lake Granbury, just to show you how crowded that one park does get. There's really no rhyme or reason currently, and so we're working to try to mitigate that by utilizing this pay station and directional signage on how you can enter and exit the park. The photos on the right are, unfortunately, that's at Possum Kingdom, but we do receive the same kind of issues at our parks at Granbury and or PK. So those are just some hurdles that we have to overcome. Again, overseeing our camping policy, that's another big one. Right now, we don't have a way for our officers to kind of enforce that. They just have to go by, well, we saw this car a couple of days ago, whereas now we can have something that kind of shows how long they've actually been in our parks. Yes, sir.
Is there a day or time limit that RVs can be at the park?
Yes, sir. So our camping policy, we have a maximum period of 10 days during the 30-day consecutive period. After 10 days, the party shall not camp at a BRA public use area or designated RV site at the same reservoir again until an additional 30 days has passed. So background of park fees, just a little history here. PK used to charge at a couple of the parks they had, North D&D and Sandy Beach. The charge of the day use fee at PK ceased due to lack of interest to fill those gate attendants. It wasn't from lack of effort, I can assure you. We built two RV sites with full hookups that were free to any of our gate attendants if they were willing to work and live on site. We worked with our HR department to post these positions either on BRA websites or WorkAmp or things like that for folks that travel around the country. There are certain websites that they can go to look for jobs for the upcoming rec seasons. So we did all of that, still to no avail. We couldn't receive applicants. So this is a measure that we're going to try to take to help limit some of the challenges and hurdles that we have. And again, it was recommended to the management staff to install one pay station at De Cordova Bend Park. We're going to use that as our pilot program, and we'll see where it goes from there. Just a little more information about De Cordova Bend or Granbury. There are 5 other parks with boat ramps at Lake Granbury that are currently free to the public. So it's not like we're cutting off access to folks that want to access our parks for free. So again, here, this is just to discuss these amenities that are provided in this one park alone, minus the last bullet point. If we move forward with this, that last bullet point will change. But this is what we're going to recommend to charge for $5 per vehicle. Proposed park fee, evaluation of how we kind of got to the $5 per vehicle. If you look around, and especially in that general area, Texas Parks and Wildlife charges $7 per adult, age 13 and older. The Corps of Engineers charges $5 per vehicle. And there's other lakes in the local area, Squaw Creek and others. They charge per person. Again, that's on the honor system. And for us, it's just easier, I think, as a management tool to just charge $5 and we'll know who's supposed to be in the park and who's not at that point in time. Estimated cost, the initial investment is going to be approximately $17,000 for the actual machine, and that'll include installation and training. That will all be included in that $17,000. Estimated cost of about $2,200 per year, and that'll allow us to have the hosting and transaction processing services, cellular fees, and then miscellaneous supplies that are needed for that machine to keep it operable throughout the year. Currently, we have an average of 75 vehicles per day in this park alone. And so if you ran that off of $5, you're roughly estimation of $137,000 per year. Our F&A folks have also met with Ventec, the distributor of this machine, to make sure that there would be no issues on how the monies are remitted or reconciled. We have no issues with that. Issues with a refund. We've got park staff, select park staff that'll be authorized to issue refunds if a customer has a complaint. They can do that via the office there on the computer or out in the field on a mobile device. So we're going to put this out for 30-day comment. Basically, our PIO office will have a link on our website for public comment. This information will be announced via signs in the park with QR codes, social media sites, and on the BRA website as well. We'll collect that information and evaluate that data, and we'll make a management decision at that point on how we want to move forward. If it's decided that we want to move forward, we'll bring this back to you all in July for y'all's approval for us to move forward with that. With that, I'll open it. I'll have it.
Yes, I have a question, because I may be asked about this. Is it $5 per day per vehicle? Is that
Yes,
the way?
sir.
So if you're going to spend 7 days camping there, you'll
just
pay
wake
one
up the
time
next morning and go and book for another $5.
each day? Okay,
There.
thanks.
What's the reliability of the machine? Is it, I would assume that there'd be times that it'd be down. Do we have any idea of what reliability is?
Yes, sir. These are very reliable. Again, from meetings that we've had and then working with Corps of Engineers, we've utilized these all over the state of Texas, from East Texas to the Metroplex to out in West Texas. And so the reliability is good. However, we do have a 24-hour battery backup, so we'll know if something's intermittently wrong with those machines, and we can go out and try to assess that. And again, part of those fees, we'll have the contact with Ventec, the actual vendor, to be able to reach back and ask them if it's not just a solar or a connection issue, what's going on, and they can send someone out to take a look at it.
And a second question, and that'll be all I've got. That you mentioned a 10-day limit on access. Would the machine have the capability to somehow limit somebody's access, or is that going to be
That's something that we could work towards potentially, but at least right now we have the receipts that would be on the dashboard that we could utilize that to justify that that individual's been there for 10 days. Right now, we don't have a way other than just an officer to go out and say, I've seen this person in the park for 10 consecutive days.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You mentioned a $17K initial investment.
Yes, sir.
How many of these units are you planning on installing? Is it just for one?
Initially, yes, sir. We're just trying this as a pilot program.
Okay.
I was kind of piggybacking on Director Ladham. What's the warranty period on that machine?
So you have a 1 year basically bumper to bumper type warranty on it, and then after that, I'm certain, I'm hopeful that we will have paid that off at that point in time. But you have a 1 year warranty on it.
And do they come in conjunction with those arms that like you came into?
So this one, we're not proposing an arm, or we're not going to put one with an arm, as maintenance costs and other issues like that. And again, this is just a pilot program. You can build these things to however you want, but we wanted to make sure that this thing got off the ground running first before we decided to start implementing other mechanisms to it.
So we just brought this to the board today to plant a seed, give you something to think about. We'll go out for a 30-day public comment, and then we'll get all that data and bring it back to you. And if that data suggests that we still feel comfortable bringing that to you in July, then we'll further this discussion then.
Moving on to agenda item number 8, report and possible discussion on fiscal year 2026, second quarter investment report by Michelle Drouin Chief Financial Officer.
This report is in your books. If anybody has any questions, should be more than willing to take those questions at this time.
Any questions for Michelle in regards to the fiscal year 2026 second quarter investment report? All right, moving on to agenda item number 9, report and possible discussion on fiscal year 2026 second quarter financial report by Michelle Giroir, Chief Financial Officer. Any questions in regards to the fiscal year 2026 second quarter financial report for Michelle? All right, Michelle, you're off the hook. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Yes, Director Taylor and Director Henderson, all in favor?
Yes.
All right, everybody have safe travels home. Our meeting has ended at 12:39. Yes.